Good morning. Good morning. Excellent. Everybody is fully caffeinated and had sugar, so we are excited and ready to go. Let me just do a brief introduction, if you were not here last night, to our speaker this morning. Dr. Gregory Ellison II is the Assistant Professor of Pastoral Care and Counseling at the Emory University. He is a visionary leader and thinker and a very humble soul. Dr. Ellison has written several articles and speaks extensively on issues related to adolescence, hope, marginalization, muteness, and invisibility in African American young men. He is the author of Cut Dead But Still Alive, Caring for African American Young Men, and he is the co-founder of Fearless Dialogues, which is a grassroots organization, and it's a community empowerment initiative that is designed to improve the lives of African American young men. Dr. Ellison is also an ordained Baptist minister who has served in several churches in Methodist and Presbyterian churches. He also is a wonderful father of 3 amazing young people. He is married to Antoinette Greenway Ellison. And Dr. Ellison, as you will get to introduce yourself to him today as he kind of makes his way around the room and at breaks, is a genuinely wonderful human being. Now, to be honest, if you know me, you recognize that that is high praise. High praise. And I am overwhelmed to be able to call Gregory Ellison my friend. I have known him for over 10 years. He has given me excellent counsel and wise advice that has shaped the course of my academic career. We will talk about that later. But I'm grateful because he's always one that I can trust to demonstrate compassion and passion about the lives and concerns of young people, even when others around us think, why are you studying young people? Why are you dealing with young people? Just let them go. Dr. Ellison refuses. And so this morning, I bring him up and invite you to open up your ears and your minds because you're going to truly receive something awesome. Thanks.
Well, it's good to finally see you. I said this last night to get started. I really don't take it lightly whenever I'm afforded the opportunity to stand before God's people. So whether it's 50 people or 5,000, I take the time to look every single person in the eye. And I do this for a couple reasons. First, for those of you all who heard this last night, just bear with me. The 2 reasons I do this is, one, because I said it's good to finally see you, because Skip and I have been planning this for a long time. And I've been praying for you all for several months now. So it's good to finally see your face. But I also say it's good to see you, because I know what it feels like to be unseen. I know what it feels like to be invisible. I know what it feels like to be unheard. So when I have the opportunity to stand before other people that I can learn with, that I can grow with, I look them in the eye and I recognize the gift that is before me. So welcome to the Laboratory of Discovery. Y'all ready? I know it's the morning time. We still shaking off the cobwebs. We were here late last night. Let's just stand up and stretch. You know, Michael Jackson got us going this morning, so we're about to have some fun. Everybody doing all right? Listen, what they call this, the twinkle fingers or something like that? Whatever. Okay, y'all can sit down. Actually, before we get started, did I mention this is the Laboratory of Discovery? Okay. Before we get started, I want to thank my friend Skip for bringing me here. In the preaching world, we have something called flunking. That's when you actually try and deliver a message and it just hits the floor. It's pretty awful. Several years ago, Skip invited me to his church. It was one of the three worst teaching environments. Teaching experiences that I've ever had. And he still invited me back. So I'm still befuddled that I'm here. So I want to thank Skip for bringing me here, and my dear friend Almeida. But you all, I want to start our time together in a slightly different way. As we sit here today, my father is in surgery. And he was a little disappointed that I'm here and not at the hospital with him this morning. So I called him at 4:45 this morning before he went in. But he'll be in surgery until about the time when we get out today. His name is Gregory Ellison, Sr. So I don't, if it's okay, could we say a prayer? It was interesting yesterday when I was talking to my dad about coming to Yale. He shared with me a story that I never knew. He's a pretty dynamic guy, if I must say so myself. He does have a good name. And he told me, Greg, it was about 50 years ago, it was in 1966, that I actually, here it is, Skip, I actually was on the campus of Yale Divinity School as a high school student that was brought to New Haven to experience life on a college campus. It was an Upward Bound type program. So I think his spirit is still here with us today, 50 years later, as he's in surgery now. So if you all would pray with me. Most gracious God, we thank you for this day. Dear God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this day. We don't have much control over yesterday. There are memories that we can learn from, but we can't go back and do it again. We don't have much control over tomorrow. We can dream and hope for our future, but we have a responsibility on this day to take action. So on this day, we say thank you. We thank you for bringing us together. We thank you for allowing us to come together that we might learn with each other. Dear God, we thank you for this opportunity at the Laboratory of Discovery here on Yale's campus. Dear God, my heart is heavy this morning because my father is in surgery and I'm not with him. But dear God, we know that your spirit abounds and that you are the author and the finisher of our faith. So we pray now that your angels would encamp around him just as they are encamped around us right now. So we thank you for this moment. We thank you for the surgeons who will operate on him. And I thank you for my friends and family who are praying for him at this hour all over the country. Dear God, we thank you for our time to learn together. We pray that you would attune our ears and heighten our vision so that we might see those around us more clearly and that we might hear those who are in voices, who seem voiceless. We ask this prayer right now for wisdom, for discernment, for knowledge, for healing, for peace, for mercy, for love in the name of Jesus. Amen. All right, y'all. I put my professor hat back on. Welcome to the Laboratory of Discovery. Should we do one light again, Skip? It is one light. Maybe we could do two lights today. It's sunny outside. There we go. Can y'all see it? Welcome to the Laboratory of Discovery. I'm sorry, that's the dead zone. I can't walk that way. I prefer to think about the classroom not as an ordinary class. I don't want you all to think about this as a dining hall, right? I'm asking that you would think about this space as a laboratory. And I love the metaphor of laboratory because in a laboratory, sometimes things have to blow up or break down in order to get to the breakthrough or the discovery, okay? So this is the Laboratory of Discovery, and I want to share with you all that discovery's already begun. There's some experiments that are happening in this room already. Y'all might think I'm crazy. It's going to come together, okay? All right? So today we're here to talk about this subject, cut dead but still alive. And some of you all who were here last night were able to kind of already interrogate this quote by William James. But I'll give you a brief synopsis of my research after we read this. So in your groups, could someone read out loud number 1, right, under Roman numeral 4, William James, okay? Please read. One person, read it aloud, please. One person in your group, please read it aloud. Number 1, William James. Yeah, some water would be great. Thank you, Mama. Okay, once you've read it, talk with the people around your tables. What did it feel like? In the Laboratory of Discovery, we're trying to move from here to here. What did you feel in your gut as you heard these words? Just throw out some words with the people around you. What did it feel like? If you all don't talk, this won't work. Let's have some good conversation. Rejection. Okay, let's call them out. What did you all feel? Let me write it down up here. Rejection. Despair. Despair, bad. I'm sorry, say that one more time. Torture. Non-existent. Guilty. Say more. Why'd you feel guilty? You what? You're guilty of not seeing other people. What's your name? Richard. Good to meet you, Richard. Okay. Yes, back here, Jason. Profiled. Wow. Loneliness. Blinded. Who said blinded? Why do you say blinded? Yeah, the unacknowledged are all around us. They're hidden in plain view. Okay? Yeah. Forgotten. What's your name again, man? Jerry. And yours, my brother? Yeah. Dwight. Thank you, Dwight. Rejected. Who said that? Give me your name one more time. You told me earlier. Miss Shirley. Others. Outcast. Why outcast? What's your name, sir? Jose. Thank you, Jose. A few more. Yeah, Brother Bart's there. Why? Yeah. Yeah, I'd rather be tortured than to be unseen. I saw a couple more hands back there. Thank you, Brother Barksdale. Yeah, say it again. Not a part of what? Okay. One more. Yes, sir. Rage. Okay. So far, we have rejection, despair. It feels bad. It's torturous. We feel as if we're non-existent or guilty or profiled, lonely, blinded, forgotten, rejected, outcast. It's an interesting feeling of being in but not of. To rather prefer to be tortured than to be unseen. Rage. Let me read this out loud for the people that are listening around the world. No more fiendish punishment could be devised. Were such a thing physically possible than that one should be turned loose in society and remain absolutely unnoticed by all the members thereof. If no one turned around when we entered, answered when we spoke, or minded what we did, but if every person we met cut us dead, think about those terms, cut us dead, and acted as if we were non-existent things, a kind of rage and impotent despair before long would well up in us, from which the cruelest bodily torture would be a relief. So William James is a famous American psychologist and pragmatist, and he wrote this tome called The Principles of Psychology. And in this book, in this chapter of this book, he's talking about the fact that human beings are social selves. They have this innate ability that requires us to be noticed and noticed favorably. However, in this very academic text that's about 400 or 500 pages, right, he uses this slang term, this 19th century idiom, cut dead. Cut dead literally means to be snubbed completely or deliberately ignored. So what does it mean to live a life when other people choose not to see you, but you still have hopes and dreams? This was something that really struck me as I began doing my research several years ago while I was pastoring in Newark and I was a student at Princeton. I was working with young men who were coming out of prison in a program called Youth Turn. These were some of the most hardened gangbangers on the street. However, as I began to hear their stories, I also began to think about the stories of the young men that I was counseling at Princeton. And the more I thought about it, the more I heard their stories, the more I realized that they were strikingly similar in spite of the very different social context. They felt unseen and unheard. And as I heard these stories, some themes began to emerge. When you don't feel seen and you don't feel heard, it affects your sense of self, your identity, how you conceive of your space in the world. But it also affects how you interact with other people. And then finally, and almost most tragically, it impacts how you think about your future. So I began doing this work, and I shared one of the stories of one of the young men that I worked with last night. He jumped off of a bridge, and he lived. He literally was cut dead and given the miracle of life, so he was still alive. How did he put his life back together? I want to share another story, a very tragic story about a young man who was in the program that I was working in. His name was Nathaniel. Nathaniel was a really laid-back guy. You know, he had sold drugs for many years. So I enter into the room, and I had talked to him for several weeks now. He was just really calm, and, you know, he didn't mess with anybody, at least unless you mess with him. And he was sitting in the room, and when I walk in, it's these two mentors that work in the program, and they're standing over him and just going in on him, just yelling, "Why are you selling drugs? You're killing our community. You need to change your life." They're yelling at him. And this calm brother, I see his brow start to furrow. And I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. And they're going in on him. And then he stands up and says, "You don't know me." And then the guards jump up. Right? And I was like, all right. "You don't know me." My mom is a crack addict. And to supply her habit, she prostitutes out of our apartment. I got 2 little sisters that stay in the apartment, and it's men coming in and out of our house all day. I got 2 little sisters. Ain't nobody gonna hire me. You don't know me. I started selling drugs to my mama to protect my sisters. The room sounded just like it did now. It went silent. This young man had been cast as a problem, but no one sought to see his benevolent intent in a very difficult situation. He was willing to kill his mother to save his sisters. Wow. Tough decisions. It's really interesting. I've been fortunate to talk about this in a lot of spaces. And it's easy to kind of project outward and say, these are problems of other people. Right? These are young people's issues. They're the only ones that suffer with being unseen and unheard. But let's try and bring it a little closer to home. So I'm gonna call you to remember now. So if someone could help me out, I just need one volunteer to read something for me. One volunteer. Someone who hadn't talked yet. Someone. You talk. Come on, somebody. Come on, let's go. Sam, Tam, have you talked this morning? Come on, Sam. Okay. Now, as Sam is reading, I want you all to put down your papers and close your eyes and think about this time in your life. Okay? Here you go. We're going to read number 2, Kipling Williams. Read it slowly and convincingly.
Kipling Williams on remembering. Few moments in life are more painful than feeling that others, especially those whom we admire and care about, want nothing to do with us. There may be no better way to communicate this for others to treat you as though you are invisible, like you didn't exist. Maybe at first glance this doesn't seem as intolerable as I suggest, but recall for a moment a situation in which your friends, family, co-workers, or relationship partners acted as though you did not exist. Remember feelings as though you were invisible, yet you could see the others going about their lives as though nothing unusual was happening. What did you do?
What did you do?
Did you try talking to them to find out what was going on? But what if they didn't talk back?
What did you do?
But instead acted as though they had not heard you? Maybe you waved your hands in front of their faces.
What did you do?
If you did, what did it feel like when they even refused to make eye contact with you?
Yeah, how did it feel?
Were you able to carry on as though everything was normal?
What did you do?
Did you start to withdraw? Or did you reciprocate their actions?
You gonna see me now?
Did you disengage? Did you disengage, wondering if you really belong with these people after all? Notice Williams calls the reader to remember and recall and not imagine.
Okay, start there. All right. Thank you, Brother Sam. Now, Kipling Williams calls us to remember, to recall, and not imagine. Recall for a moment a situation in which your friends, family, co-workers, or relationship partners acted as though you did not exist. I've been married. I know what the silent treatment feels like, right? Remember feeling as though you were invisible. Yet you could see the others passing before you as if nothing unusual was happening. What did you do? What did you do? Did you try to talk back? Did you wave your hand in front of their faces? Did you say, if you're going to ignore me, I'm going to ignore you too? Were you able to move on as if everything was normal? Did you start to withdraw? What did you do? Let's just take a few seconds and think about that moment. Locate that particular moment in your life. A few seconds. Okay. If you're courageous enough, a couple of you, please share that story with the people around you. We'll take a couple minutes. This is fearless dialogues, you all. It's not easy all the time. Let's talk. Let's talk. Come on, let's talk. I know it's early. Let's get moving. Let's talk. Okay, 30 seconds, everybody. 30 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, everybody, time. Okay? So, what did you hear? What did you feel? How did it feel to be in that type of situation? Let's call them out. Yes, sir, in the back. Angry. Okay? So we're moving from the theoretical of James to the very personal. Jefferson. Uh-huh. Okay. Everybody, let's start that word that he said, belonging. Okay? We'll come back to that. Thank you, Jefferson. Yes, ma'am. Powerless. Your name, please. Sue. Why powerless, Sue?
Because if people don't see or hear you, you can't make changes and have an influence or grow.
Yeah. So let's connect powerlessness to control. Okay? I'm sorry, y'all can't see. There we go. All right. So control is you don't have the control over them. right? Yeah.
I had a question. My question was, why God?
Why?
And I shared with my group that I went to a pastor's meeting in Ellison, and a female pastor, and I felt most like I was being ignored, invisible in that space.
So the questions began to mount. Belonging was also there, right? Okay. Others? Yes, sir. Barksdale. Uh-huh. Okay. So it perpetuates. Others. Yes, ma'am. Your name? Jenna. Hey, Jenna.
So I was kind of thinking about what you said last night about not fearless but fearless.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking, the first word that came to me was worthless.
Huh.
That's not quite right. It's worthless, like that compound word.
Wow. So it affected your sense of meaning. Am I reading into that too much? Okay. Come on. Jason, yeah. Alone. So you could identify with the struggle. Come on, a few more. Yes, sir. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Give me your name one more time, brother. Anthony. Thank you, Anthony. Someone from one of these tables here. I haven't heard much from these 4 tables here. This is a family experience. Y'all sitting around a table. You got food in front of you. Let's just talk, man. Loosen up. Loosen up. Okay. What did you all feel? I know something came out of this conversation. What? You felt heard. Yeah. Uh-huh. What did I do? So the questions began to mount. What did I do? Come on, we still in this triangle over here. Hey, this is the laboratory of discovery. We're going somewhere. I mean, we're building it's like a puzzle. Okay, back here, in the back. Anybody? Yes, sir. Ignore. You want to say more? Let's leave it at that. Yes, sir.
And stuff like that I was kind of talking to someone in my family last night about, the gifts that we have growing up that you're ignored when people don't let you know about the gifts that you have.
Yeah.
And I kind of brought that up, and you kind of hit home last night about the gifts. And what I try to do is, especially in the place that I'm at right now, I try to let people know that this is your gift, and don't ignore it. But for myself, I thought I might have had things going on in my life where I was gifted, but nobody ever let me know that, and I didn't pursue it.
Okay.
So I kind of felt ignored.
And sometimes when they're not nurtured, those dreams begin to wither. Yeah. Yes, sir. you felt responsible that they weren't listening to you.
Responsible. Well, the scenario was our mother had died, and I was the oldest. So I gave them the responsibility of, I'll let you guys plan, do what you need to do, so that they can grieve. But then at the same time, I became silent, and I was trying to talk to them, but they weren't able to hear or see what I was going through.
Okay.
So the responsibility was relinquished to them.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. Now, this morning, we're going to do a little more theory than we did last night, okay? And I'll explain some of the actual practices, the theory behind the practices that we engaged in last night in the Fearless Dialogues in a minute. But Kipling Williams is a social psychologist from Australia. And he's devoted much of his life to studying the dynamics of ostracism. And he's written a very compelling text called Ostracism, the Power of Silencing. And in this book, he does this longitudinal study of hundreds of people that he interviews over several years. And he examines the experiences that they have over time of being unseen and unheard, being marginalized, okay? And what he finds out is that there are 4 fundamental human needs that are threatened when you're unseen and unheard. And I build my text around these needs. Many of these needs have already been articulated from our experiences of remembering what it felt like to be given the silent treatment by people that we care about, okay? So Kipling Williams says that these 4 fundamental human needs are necessary for every single human being. They're base level needs that we have. The first one is a feeling of belonging. We all desire to be in community, to feel as if we matter, if the people around us really value the fact that we are in their presence. But when you feel as if you're ostracized, you're unseen and you're unheard, these questions begin to mount. Do I really belong here? I'm a member of this church, but I sit on the back row and I walk in and no one says good morning. And they all gather together during the welcome time. And I'm still on that back pew. Ain't nobody come to talk to me. Do I belong here? The questions begin to mount, right? It happens in school. Kipling Williams tells the story of a young lady who was given the silent treatment from her peers for 157 days straight. Not a single person in her school, the kind of scarlet letter, not a single person talked to her for 157 days. She began to crumble inside. So she took 29 Valium pills. Her brother found her on the floor, convulsing. They rushed her to the hospital. They pumped her stomach. When she came back to school, the young people started to talk to her for a few days. And then they ostracized her again. She felt as if she didn't belong. The second thing that begins to happen when you're unseen and unheard is you begin to question your self-esteem. Maybe I don't deserve to be seen or heard. Maybe I'm responsible for this. Maybe there's something internally flawed within me that other people just choose not to see me, and maybe it's because I'm a bad person. Think about the young people that you all work with. You know, I'm not a good student, I'm a C student. They give all the attention to the A students, and they give all the attention to the F students. I'm an average guy. I'm in the middle class. I'm literally in the middle of the class. You know, no one really pays attention to me, and maybe because I'm not that good and I'm not that bad. Maybe it's something wrong with me. Self-esteem begins to crumble. Does this make sense to y'all? Okay. We start descending into the horrors of hell now. Right? One of our friends said, you feel powerless. And this is the third rung of the fundamental human needs. We all desire a sense of control over our lives. And we cannot control how other people choose to see us or not see us. And when you begin to lose that sense of control, you either begin to implode or you begin to explode on the world to try and relinquish a sense of control of being seen or heard. Ralph Ellison, in the beginning of his book, The Invisible Man, he says, people bump me as if I'm not there, so you see me now. There's a woman that Kipling Williams wrote about in his book. This is tragic, y'all. Her husband gave her the silent treatment for 40 years. Yeah. I know we're among church folk, but that bring out some words, don't it? Some words that you don't say in the pulpit. But yeah, the 40 years of the silent treatment. And in recording her story, she said, I wish he would have beat me. Because at least I would have known that I'm here, that I can feel my body, that I have some control over this space. But he chooses not to see me at all. And I have no control over that. What does it feel like if you're a young person and you walk up and down the street and no one connects eyes with you ever? If you're that average middle of the road student and no one pays any attention to you, and you're wondering, how can I get them to see me without losing myself? These are some hard questions, y'all, but that's only the third level. Now we descend into the abyss. The fourth fundamental human need that is threatened when you're not seen or heard is your sense of meaningful existence. Your sense of meaningful existence. If I die today, will anybody notice? If I'm just snuffed off of the face of this earth, will anybody care? Some of the most dangerous people I've ever met in life have no sense of accountability. Because nobody cares. If I shoot you today and I end up in jail, that's all right. Then nobody care about me no way. So, these are the parameters in which we might build our ministry. How do we create spaces where people feel as if they belong? Right? When you all who came in last night for the Fearless Dialogues, when you walked in, most of y'all, we usually do this as a team. It's not just me. We greet people in the parking lot. Before they even come to the space, the laboratory, I greeted most of you all outside. The first thing I said was, it's good to see you. Right? That's the first thing that came out of my mouth. It's good to see you. Welcome to Fearless Dialogues. Are you ready for change? Good to see you connecting with people. You belong here. Many of you had name tags on. Some people had name tags that said artist, healer, neighbor, right? That's very intentional in creating a hospitable environment, because if people come in and they lead with their role, hello, my name is Dr. Ellison. It's very good to meet you. My name is Judge Joe Brown. It is good to meet you. Hi, my name is Matthew. I'm the executive of the Fortune 500 company down the street, right? That sets up power differentials. What happens if you're unemployed, or you're underemployed, or you wish you could be employed, but you just don't know how? What we seek to do in creating spaces of belonging is prepare situations where people can connect soul to soul and not role to role. That's not me. That's my friend Parker Palmer. How do you connect soul to soul with people around your gifts and not around these superficial divisions that break us apart? So in your youth ministries, how do you create spaces of belonging for young people? The second question, the second thing is, how do you create places that bolster self-esteem? So young people feel as if my voice is important. It matters here. As you all walked in, you all saw this living museum of these young people holding these pictures. And the pictures are provocative, and they're meant to jar your thinking and to think about, we're not coming into any ordinary conversation. But one part of it is for you to begin to engage with young people on very meaningful levels, not just superficial levels. They're asking you questions and you're asking them questions back. You're saying that we value your voice. That bolsters self-esteem, right? Control. We engaged in these conversations, these heartfelt conversations around questions. And everyone had the opportunity to say, I don't want to be heard. But when you are in an environment when people are struggling to hear your story, and your story for the sake of the fact that it is your story and it's something that can teach me, you believe that, I do have some role in this space. There is some control that I exhibit. And then finally, your sense of meaningful existence begins to grow, right? So let's talk a little more. How do y'all feel? Should we take a break? Let's take a break. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to talk a little more. I'm going to stop talking. I feel like I've talked too much. This is a laboratory of discovery. I got to lay the foundation theoretically because I'm at Yale. Let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back, and we're going to get into it, some really good conversations with each other.
Your mic's going to stay on. I'm just going to turn it on.
Okay.
My father is suffering from cancer. He he's kind of like had a relapse. So when you spoke about your dad today, I'm at a program and I'm not able to call people right now, but I need to call.
Hello? Y'all here? Where are we again? Oh, yeah. Okay. Just checking. Go ahead, Skip.
I want to introduce Aracelis Vasquez-Hay, who has one more announcement, giving you an opportunity to reflect on the final celebratory dinner we're going to have tonight. Aracelis.
Hey, buenos dias. Buenos dias. All right. So I just want to remind you all that you are all invited to join us tonight for our gathering, dinner, worship, music, food. Good food. In fact, we're going to have authentic Puerto Rican food tonight. And our speakers all the way from the Windy City, Chi-Town, Chicago, we have pastors Rebecca and Jorge will be joining us, and our focus will be transforming our city. We're going to continue on that theme, but really tackle, really focusing on how to empower our youth. So we invite you, your youth, the parents, your community to join us. So if you have not signed up, please sign up at the table because we want to make sure that we have enough food for tonight, okay? But definitely, we're excited for the night, and if you can't make it, pray for us because we know that God is going to do something amazing. God bless.
Okay, everybody. We're in round 2 now. So we're going to start off actually by looking at this piece by Howard Thurman on page 3. And as you turn to it, I want you all to just bear with me and think about this fact. I started writing this book in 2007. It took 7 years to get it out, okay? And as I began to get in the final stages of revising everything, and I was looking over the entire book, I realized that this is much more than a classroom resource in seminaries. This could actually be a tool to help people think about how they might include other folks within their community. But remember, the initial focus of my research was on African-American young people, specifically African-American young men. But God blessed me to travel a lot and to have good conversations with people like yourself all over the world. So back in 2011, I went to Bethel College. Anybody heard of Bethel College? Bethel College is in Kansas, in rural Kansas. Woo, yeah. Ain't too much in Kansas but corn, right? It's a lot of corn and wheat, and we were driving with my uncle and I was like, man, we really out there. We don't go out in these areas when the street lights are not on, but it wasn't no street lights. So I mean, so anyway, they scheduled me to give a lecture on a college campus on a Friday night. Students don't come to lectures on Friday nights. They partying, right? But I walk into the lecture hall and it's full. 200 white Republican senior citizens, right? Because it was a senior citizens home right next to the college. And I'm talking about this same subject. And they say, we know what it feels like to be cut dead, but still alive. Because our kids tuck us away in these senior citizens' homes, and we used to be very vibrant people in our community, but the church doesn't come check on us. We can't volunteer the way that we used to. We know what it feels like to be muted and invisible. And then a few months later, I went to Peru, and I was talking to the workers. And the workers were telling me that our bosses see us as parts of machines, that we're not fully human. We feel invisible, right? And I'm talking through a translator. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And I just, and Skip can tell you, I just got back from Brazil last week, right? And no, that was this week. Oh my gosh. I spent a month in Brazil talking to graffiti artists and pastors, and they say the same thing happens in our community. And what I'm realizing, the more that I have these conversations, is that muteness and invisibility transcends race, it transcends age, it transcends class, it transcends gender, that this is a human problem, and that we have a responsibility to see those who are hidden in plain view. and to hear their stories as valuable. Anybody heard of Howard Thurman? Oh, yeah. That Howard Thurman from a different planet. He wasn't an earthling, you know. Howard Thurman was one of the most profound theologians that has ever walked the face of this earth, right? And Martin Luther King, legend tells us that when he was traveling throughout the civil rights movement, he carried 2 books in his briefcase. One was the Holy Bible. The second was Howard Thurman's Jesus and the Disinherited. That says a lot about Jesus and the Disinherited. Says a lot about the quality of thinking that this man had. He was one of the first African Americans to go to India and meet with Gandhi and to bring nonviolence back to the United States and share it with those people who were putting together the civil rights movement. He's a different kind of guy. So you're about to be blown away. So what I'm going to ask that you do now is in your groups around your table that you would read together these words from Howard Thurman. So one person read a paragraph or a few sentences, and when you get tired, just tag the person next to you, and they can read on. So as you're reading now, I would challenge you to underline words or phrases that really kind of jolt you. But I will also challenge you to listen to that voice within you. Not about what you're thinking, but what is it that you feel as you read these words. So in your groups, please talk in your groups. Read aloud these sentences, and then I'll have some questions for you when you finish. Okay, let's begin. Hey, man. Good. Y'all supposed to be working together, man. Yeah. Okay. You can look on with them. I'm out. Could you all read together for me, please, ma'am? How you doing? Hey, man. How you doing? Could you join this group for me back here? I'll get some copies made. Could you can look on with her. Okay. We ran out of the packets. I should have done. No, I did. Okay. Thank you, Skip. I see.
They're not talking to me.
Okay.
We're invisible.
So we need to use this.
There's no price. So you're good at this. So you repeat their comments. That's
Okay.
fine.
But it's still dead.
No. But when they give a speech, you can't use it.
Okay.
So it's a choice between the dead air of running the microphone versus the extended dead air of live stream audience going.
We don't get it. Okay.
So I've been erring on the side of if you're just looking for words, you'll repeat them. You don't need to
want me to hold the mic? Let me hold the mic. Okay. All right. Okay, some of you are still reading. Continue to read. What's so strange about this freedom? What did you feel? What struck you as you read these words? Let's talk. Keep talking around your tables. What words were most challenging to you? Oh, yeah, we're going to call in a minute. Okay, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. This is the laboratory of discovery. Discovery is continuing. Okay, everybody. Skip says we had to run this around when people talk. Okay, everybody. What did you feel? What did you hear in these words? Miss Shirley, let's get going. Apathy. Disconnect.
And in Howard's work, he portrayed that in The Disinherited and how we are to do when coming in contact with our fellow man.
So apathy and disconnect. Okay. Someone up here, can you come up to this mic? And I know there's somebody up here. We got to use the mic so our friends online could follow us. Okay. Yes, sir.
I don't have just one word, but I have just a thought. Like, it's interesting how people can be alive but value no life themselves. And if we can't love others, then it's a sign that we don't even love ourselves.
Okay.
So maybe lovelessness.
Lovelessness. Thank you. Give me your name, brother.
Barry.
Eric.
Barry.
Thank you, Eric. If it's somebody back there, our friend Brock will help us out. Yes, ma'am.
One of the things I felt was irony. So the sense that when we think about being free, it's being unrestrained, but what Thurman is saying is actually being sort of connected and obligated to something else is where you find true freedom.
Okay.
And it seems ironic.
So the freedom is really ironic. Okay. What words really struck you as you were reading this? Our friends were reading a reflection from Howard Thurman called Strange Freedom. Yes, back here, Leslie.
A stranger to society.
A stranger to society. Okay. Others. Which words were most striking to you? Yes, sir. Your name? Samuel. Okay. Say it again. Accountability. Why accountability, Samuel?
To be accountable to someone, there is no accountable person when, somebody is, on the street.
Yeah.
Nobody is seeing him, nobody asking him, so accountability.
I read this piece with some of my brothers and sisters in the Bahamas, right? Not in the nice sandy beach area. We were in the gully. Yeah, we were there, and there's this word mooring, right? What did you all think about that word, mooring? Yeah, come on up.
We have a boat, so this first couple of sentences really stuck to me because an anchor secures you, and a mooring is something if you don't have an anchor or you're adrift.
Yeah.
And particularly if the seas kick up, it's scary. And a mooring is a ball that's out in the water that you can cling to and clip your boat. And we were coming back, we were in a storm, an unexpected storm, and we were looking for a mooring. It was hard to find one.
Yeah. So let's think about that metaphor. Who are the young people that we work with who have no mooring, nothing to tether or tie themselves to, but they're adrift in the world of men and women, right? And it becomes really complex. I was sharing with my sister before we started. There was a young brother that I was working with in Newark, and he was really high on the food chain in his gang, like really high, third in the state, right? And one of his cousins got killed, and he was trying to change his life around. And so he had this one section that he was trying to moor himself to, and I'll tell you about the church that I worked in. And then he had this other section of his life that was really trying to push him out. His grandmother told him, if you don't avenge the death of your cousin, you're not a part of our family anymore. That's the grandma, right? But there was another anchor in his life. Remember, he was this big-time drug lord. And he and I had been talking for several months. He didn't know I was a pastor. I don't wear that kind of stuff on my sleeve, right? And so he decides to go live as a homeless person when he gets out, because he knew if he went back into his neighborhood, he'll fall right back in. This is a guy who made $3,000 a day. And now I'm a stinky homeless person on the street. And he comes to me and say, hey, man, Mr. Greg, you done sold me a dream. I'm trying to better my life, but I'm a stinky homeless person. People don't look at me. I'm used to being a man. So, I tell him, I'm actually pastoring a church. I'd known him for 18 months, and he didn't know I was a pastor at his church. And I said, let me go talk to the folks in my church. So I talked to the older women in this church that I work in, right? And the pastor parish committee. And they say, if you believe him, in this guy, we're going to invest in him. So what they decided to do is they set up an apartment in the attic of our church. We didn't have heat, so they brought him blankets and chicken soup every day. And this young man, for the first time in his life, felt a positive sense of accountability. That I don't want to let these old women down. Here's the catch. He was a blood and we were in the Crip neighborhood. For those of y'all don't know about that, he was in the rival gang. Sometimes there has to be an interrupting hope. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I saw a hand back here. Who do you connect yourself to? Yeah.
The line that says, "It is a strange freedom to be adrift in the world of men." You know, like this coincides with what you were saying about kids just feeling like they have nothing, nothing to say. It'll make them feel strange when, nobody's looking at you. It brings down the self-esteem. So that line right there stuck with me, because if kids starting to feel strange, and there could be nothing wrong with them at all.
Okay.
But soon as, the self-esteem drops, they feel like they're a problem and the hope is gone, and we know what happens after that.
Did I mention this was a laboratory of discovery, Jason?
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
I just want y'all to remember that there's some experiments happening. Brother Jones, and then we're gonna take a little excursion for a minute.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that there is a certain freedom and the ability to be adrift, and so that's the word that jumped out to me at first. And sometimes I don't think our youth have the freedom to be adrift, so to be in a space where they can rest. When I think about adrift, I think about what I like to do when I can get away, just lay on some water somewhere and just literally just be adrift. Certainly with the assurance that I'm close by to the shore or I'm nearby other people, but there's certain freedom in just being able to be have a certain sense of carelessness.
Yeah.
And I don't think our kids have the freedom to do that.
So but there's still some security. You're not just adrift out there by yourself, like in a raft, like Castaway.
Right.
Right. You know that I'm drifting, but I got a little power on my boat, and I can go back to shore.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I was just looking at the word strange, how it's defining freedom. I look at the youth today, and some of them may feel being detached, that there is a sense of freedom, but what's the cost of that freedom? Not being connected, not having the mooring, not having an example.
Yeah.
That too can be devastating as well.
So let me ask this, right? We've been sitting in this space for about, we started at 9 o'clock, talking about what? Invisibility, muteness, our own stories. But it's some people in this room who feel invisible. It's some people right now who have felt unseen and unheard. They feel unacknowledged. Right? We're good church folk. This is a laboratory, so we're not going to point any fingers at anybody. But I want my friends to talk now. Would you please join us? Come on up to the mic. On a daily basis, this is Rashad, but today, would you please introduce yourself to us and tell us your story? Just tell us the story.
So my name is Thompson, and I'm a 34-year-old man. Been working a dead-end job for the last 18 years. I live with my mom, my kids. Come home from work, my mom constantly reminds me that I'm a deadbeat dad because I can't provide for my children. Come to work day in, day out, 9 to 5. Turn on my music because I realize that my coworkers don't acknowledge me. They go to lunch, they don't invite me out. They leave me out of all the conversations, by the coffee pots. And I've tried through music to kind of hush out the world, not realizing that the world has hushed me out as well. I feel invisible. There's nothing more to life than just work. I can't provide for my kids. So maybe I really am a deadbeat dad.
So Rashad, everybody, this is not Thompson, this is Rashad, but Rashad got here early and I asked him to play the character of Brother Thompson. So Thompson has been sitting at this table, and what were you asked to do while you were at the table?
Nothing.
To be a nothing. How did it feel?
Honestly?
Yeah, let's be honest.
Rashad or Thompson?
Thompson. Either way, you're one and the same right now. How did it feel?
You're sitting there and there's conversations happening all around you, but there's not much for you to contribute. Life is just going by.
How did it feel? That's heady. How did it feel?
Felt rough.
Okay.
I felt ignored.
All right. We're not pointing no fingers. This is an exercise, an experiment. We're growing from this. Felt rough.
Most of my thoughts I wasn't able to share, so I just wrote them down. So I was kind of in myself at the moment.
Okay. How did it feel for you all to be around Tom? Yeah, he was in character. That one, Rashad, I know Rashad. Rashad went to Morehouse. So
His body language was that of frigid. I asked him if he was a scribe. He did not respond. I looked at him. I greeted him. He wasn't angry or anything. He just didn't respond. I asked him. So to me, if you want to be a friend, you have to, you know.
okay, now let's interrogate that a little bit, Miss Shirley, right? Because I did a similar workshop. The laboratory was at a men's conference in Atlanta. 200 men from this church. They had known each other for years. One brother sat at the table as Thompson, in character much longer than you were. And these brothers know him. And he just started, the longer we were there, you could see him just shrink down. These were his friends. And they didn't talk to him. These are just some lessons, but I got some more friends in the room. Thank you, everybody. Let's give it up to Rashad. You good?
So am I Rashad or Thompson?
You could be Rashad now.
That was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. So.
I got another friend in the room. Her name is Janelle. Janelle, come on up. Brock, could we bring the microphone to this table? Come on, Janelle. This is a laboratory of discovery. I don't know if you all realize this, but discovery is happening all around us. And we've been talking about this subject. Yeah. You want to add a comment? Question. Okay.
Well, I mean, just the last statement that was made, you have to be friend, if you want a friend, you have to act friendly if you want a friend. So is the comment, if someone is quiet, it's their fault that they're all by themselves?
Let's hold that as a rhetorical question, right? Is it the young people's fault? Do they have control? Right? Okay. This is just thought-provoking, right? Yeah, I don't know. I'm having fun. I don't know if y'all are. Janelle, go ahead.
My name is Janelle. I'm a teenager. The world has passed me by. Although I live in the inner cities of the Bronx, I don't know anyone. I don't have any much friends because no one's never asked me how I felt. I travel in the morning by myself, and I come home at nights by myself. I have lunch by myself, but I have a book, and I have music. Maybe that gives me hope. And I also have a grandma who takes me to church every single Sunday and makes sure that I attend youth ministry. There, since I like to read, and the word of the Lord comes, and he tells me that there's friendship and all those things in Christ. But yet, when I step out those doors, I only see me, and I only acknowledge me, because the world doesn't know me. So that's what's Janelle's story.
Okay. How'd it feel, Janelle? Tell us your name.
My name is Shensia.
Okay. Now tell us how it felt to be Janelle.
It was very interesting being Janelle.
In this space.
In this space. Especially as us amongst Christians. Although I had people asking me, why is your music so loud over there at the table? It was only the people who knew me prior to the situation who spoke to me or greeted me good morning. Maybe I counted it, 6 people said good morning to me as I listened to my music. But I wrote, this is even prior to reading what you wrote, I wrote, imagine being a stranger to reality, never knowing the inviting voice beckoning to acknowledge your presence, the mere existence of your space. Am I here just to occupy volume or spatial capacity, or am I here for the world to know me? So it's that thought of being castrated from the world, even though it's, how do you put it? Even though, you know, like you say, it's a self-isolative depression, a stage of depression, but it's, the invitation isn't given, so you do not know how to interact with the world because you're a stranger, you're just a silhouette. Like, no one sees you, no one acknowledges that there's a gift in Christ in you. And you know, like how Paul speaks when he writes to the Romans, to everyone, he says, grace and mercy and peace unto you. So that part of the grace, that's our grace as Christians, to just keep us in that space, to let us know that we have value in that peace. So
how did you feel in what at times may have been a graceless space? How did you feel?
When people walked by and they didn't say hi.
How did it make you feel?
It made me, I started to write, I started to occupy myself, so I began to be more involved in myself. I started to highlight things, so I felt more depressed, like I felt more isolated. It was an enhancer for me. So I highlighted everywhere I found grace and peace. In the beginning, it's in every chapter, the first in the New Testament. That's how I am. So I just became more closed into myself, like just pulling in.
Yeah.
Pulling in and refusing to come out. Like, I'm not going to greet you because you didn't greet me. That's standoffish attitude.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I got some more friends in the room. How did you all experience this?
You know, honestly, I thought there was something wrong with her. And what I mean by that, I thought that she might have some kind of mental disability. I didn't know, because I thought to myself that she's listening to her music way too loud in this space where everyone can hear her. But I'm gonna leave her alone because I don't know if she's liable to flip the table or anything if I say something to her. And honestly, that's what I said. So what I did was I took my finger and I kind of put it in my ear so I could kind of tune her out and hear what the presenter had to say. But I felt that there was something wrong with her.
Yeah.
And then I kept looking at what she was doing. She kept flipping back and forth, and I'm like, okay, she's copying her dictionary words, and she's listening to her music. It's not bothering me as much as I think, but I'm like, will somebody please say something to her now? And then I started looking around the room to see what empty tables were available so I can get up and move during the break, because I didn't want to be around the music.
Hey, real talk. Okay, Pastor.
Along with what this gentleman just stated, I used to be a counselor at AIDS Interfaith for HIV positive people here in the city. And one man found out that I was a pastor, and he lit into me. He said, I have a problem with you preachers. Because out the window, we could see some guys sitting on a bench, and we knew that they were probably dealing drugs. He said, I have a problem with you preachers because you are afraid of your own people. You won't go and talk to them. So just when that person who was in character, Janelle, was sitting there, maybe someone was afraid to even encounter her, but if we had bothered to go and say hello, you see this person out adrift. If you see a boat adrift, you should want to go and anchor to the boat and see if you could render assistance to them. But if we see these people drift in our cities and we're afraid to speak to them, because we're afraid of what might happen to us, then what happens to them? Like the man lying in the ditch when the Pharisee and the priest
just passing by,
walked by them.
Yep. Let me throw in a little theory. In my years, thank you, Pastor. Thank you back here. I still got some friends in the room. This is a laboratory of discovery, right? But to that point of what Janelle brought up and Pastor just shared with us, I believe that as caregivers, the one tool that we have in our tool belt is hope. Doctors bring healing. Lawyers bring a different kind of healing or despair. I can't say it. My wife's a lawyer, please. But there are different resources that these various roles in society bring. I'm a big advocate of this book by Donald Capps called Agents of Hope. It was the best book I read in seminary. And it's continued to be formative in how I shape my own definition of hope. This is my definition of hope, you all. Agents of Hope by Donald Capps. But I believe that hope must be interrupting. It's not just hope for the sake of being this theoretical notion. I think we must put within our tool belt an interrupting hope. This is my definition. An interrupting hope is a disruptive desire for existential change. Not, I wish it would rain today. Existential change is, I am working towards bettering my life circumstances. A disruptive desire for existential change that is generated and sustained in a community of reliable others. A community of reliable others. It's generated and sustained in a community of reliable others. Now, the reliable others could be the small r, right? And when I say it's generated, I think about Jürgen Moltmann, who was a prisoner of war, and he saw people dying around him, both physical and spiritual deaths, just withering away, fellow prisoners, and he found the New Testament. And the cloud of witnesses in the Bible became a community of reliable others for him to generate hope in a seemingly despairing situation. Right? So it generated the hope, and as he continued to read, this community, this textual, scriptural community, began to sustain his hope. For some people, for some young people like Janelle, music becomes a way to generate and sustain hope when the world tunes you out. All right? But this is a disruptive desire. It must penetrate these forces of despair and apathy and shame. There are three components. Oh, I can't forget, right? So the community of reliable others, it could be that small r. It could be a small group of people who have the courage to care, right? Like what Pastor is saying. It could be those old women who bring you chicken soup and blankets. It could be the people who go and visit the folks in the senior citizens' home. It could be a small community. It doesn't have to be many, and they don't have to be perfect. They just have to be good enough. That's what Winnicott said, right? They're reliable, right? But it also could be the reliable other. The big R, the great I am, you know, thou art with you, that right? It could be God that can generate and sustain hope in these situations when you feel broken and estranged. But This is an interrupting hope because it does three things. The first thing an interrupting hope does is it faces the difficulties. Right? When we saw Thomas was sleeping on a bench. We couldn't say, Thomas, boy, you're going to make it. You're going to get into college. I know you're trying. You're going to get into college. Good job, Thomas. Keep sleeping on the bench. I made $3,000 a day. I'm hungry. I'm stinky. An interrupting hope must penetrate the despair by facing the difficulties at the moment. A hope that does not face the difficulties is a wish. You're selling hope to people, but, it's not helping me eat. It's not helping me feed my family. It's not helping me move forward in school. You have to face the difficulties. That's what interrupts this fear of being Janelle where no one sees me and no one hears me and no one cares. Right? The second vital component, right, is we can't just stay in the difficult space because that wouldn't be hope either. Hope must envision new possibilities. Hope must lay out a trajectory for the future. Right? And that's where this community of reliable others is important because they provide accountability as you begin to construct your plan to move beyond this space of difficulty. Right? It's possible for you. I know Thomas had 12 bids in prison when I met him. Y'all get the term bids, right? He had been arrested and incarcerated 12 times. He was 18 years old. Right? That's a life for you. So something needed to interrupt that lifestyle. And so he began to think, what would it be like? I done met this dude from Princeton. I ain't know black folk went to Princeton. Can I go to college? What would it look like if we worked towards a GED? Envisioning new possibilities, right? And then the third component is to work collectively for transformation of self and other. The thing that was most intriguing to me, and this will be really ironic, in many ways. As a student at Princeton, I felt invisible. I was the first African American to graduate with a PhD in pastoral care and counseling in the history of Princeton Theological Seminary. 2008. Princeton is old, y'all. Traditions die hard. I felt invisible in that space. But as I talked to Thomas, and Thomas saw my words of hope as vital to his journey, he saw me. When I was trying to help him, he was helping me. So as I was seeking to transform his life, he was transforming mine. That's how God works, right? And the thing that happens is when you begin to see the invisible, you see yourself in different and more fulfilling and flourishing ways. Right? I'm getting chills, y'all. Right? An interrupting hope is a disruptive desire, right? And I talk about what Capps outlines as the three fundamental threats to hope: despair, apathy, and shame. I talk about them in the book. It's a disruptive desire that seeks existential change and is generated and sustained in a community of reliable others. It faces difficulties, it envisions new possibilities, and it works for transformation of self and other. I got another friend in the room. Come on up. Brother Steve. Yeah, they everywhere, y'all. They're everywhere. How y'all doing? Y'all feeling all right? We need to do some more twinkle fingers. Okay. Go ahead, Steve.
You want me to tell me who I am?
Yeah, please.
I am Nick. I'm muted and alone. And I'm supposed to take on this character and basically sit in the middle of the room like this and not talk to anybody. I'm sorry. Because you're very nice people at my table. Anyway, I did, right? I'm 65 years old, and I'm a war veteran. And after I came out of military service, I was active in the community with the church. I was an advocate for homelessness and poverty. And a few years ago, while participating in a fundraising half marathon for a local nonprofit, I hurt my hip. So, lacking the ability to care for myself, my kids sent me to a nursing home. And after a life of service to my country and my community and fighting for those without a voice, I feel muted and invisible. So though I once thought that others might have a voice, I'm now sequestered in a convalescent home where no one visits, talks to me, or fights my battles as an aging and disabled person.
You knew somebody like this, right, Steve?
I've known old people, I've known veterans, I've known people, kind of a mix.
How did it feel?
Well, for me, I felt kind of like an asshole for these people having to tell, But aside from that, I got kind of used to the whole muted thing because I've been like that before in my life, where, for whatever reason, your various stages of your life, you get on the outside of people or whatever group, you kind of get used to it. That's what kind of drove home to me is kind of being quiet feeds on itself. Mm-hmm. So I got sort of like, all right. I mean, I hate to be mean to these folks because they're all very nice people, I can tell, but you fall into yourself and it becomes very comfortable.
Would you describe it as comfortable? Was it really comfortable?
No, but you get used to it.
Okay.
And it's better than whatever you think your alternative is. If no one's talking to you.
Before we hear from the folks at the table, thank you, Steve. Steve hit on a major point. I'm going to share one of those threats of hope. You all can read some of the others. One of Capps' first threats to hope is despair. Despair is a feeling that my future is blocked. That what is realizable for you is not realizable for me. That the experiences that you're having in your life, those aren't possible for me, right? And despair manifests itself, according to Capps, in two ways. The one is this sense of aggression, right? I'm blanking on the word, you all. It starts with a D. I've been traveling a lot. I'm sorry. Anyway, this aggression manifests itself in an outward way, right? If my future is blocked and you have something that I want, discussed, that's the word. If you have something that I want, I'm going to take it from you. That's your pen. My pen now. Right? My car. I'm disgusted, right? If my future is blocked, I'm going to break through it and I'm going to take it now. Right? I like you. You can have the car back. Pen, my brother. To Steve's point, the second manifestation of despair is depression. If disgust is outward angst, depression is internal implosion. Who are the people who are most susceptible to depression? This is always good to do around good church folk, right? The people who are most susceptible to depression are people who have very high skill levels and people who have a very high esteem to authority figures. So if the authority figures let me down and my skills are not what I think they should be or what they once were, I began to crumble, right? In the character of Steve, Nick was a community activist. He was a war veteran. He was a vibrant person in his community. These are true stories, y'all. But when they tucked him away, he was no longer an authority figure. His skills could no longer help to build the community, so he retreated internally and he became used to it. It became familiar. This is some very crazy stuff. Mario, come on up, Mario. Yeah, buddy, we're going there now. After we hear from Mario, we're going to practice seeing and hearing, then we can have some lunch, y'all. Wait, Mario. We're going to make you invisible one more time. Jefferson, let's let Jefferson tell this story. Come right here, Mario.
My name is Jefferson, and I'm a 54-year-old high-level executive of a Fortune 500 company. I worked my way up from humble beginnings, but I made it. I attained an education from Yale University, one of the top schools in the country. Made millions of dollars on Wall Street. And then I moved to Atlanta. And there I was the regional director of one of the most powerful companies in the nation. When I spoke, people listened. When I spoke, people froze. When I said jump, people said, how high? Everywhere I went, people expected me to lead, even on the golf course. But even my wife didn't know that at night I'd cry myself to sleep. When I would travel the country, I had women in every city I went to because of lack of companion. I even thought about suicide. No one sees me. No one have a clue of who I am, how lonely I am. I'm so full of myself. I'm so empty inside. I'm what you call hyper visible. You see me, but I'm unseen. I am a walking paradox. And that's my story.
So, you know Jefferson, don't you? Some of y'all have met Jefferson. Some of y'all might be Jefferson. I don't know. How did it feel to be Jefferson?
You know, it's real interesting. When you gave me this task, you asked me, you said, do you know anyone like that? And while it's not the Fortune 500 company and it's not Yale, my story is very similar. Fear has always been a big thing. So I guess it's been masked with success, commanding, demanding people, demanding the attention that I think I probably otherwise wouldn't get. Yeah, so I do know that person.
Yeah, this is a laboratory of discovery. I'm really inspired by your courageousness to share that. Thank you. Thank you. How did it feel?
For a while, it was difficult because it was taking me back to a place.
Yeah.
You know, the real part of my story in that, led me to a season of addiction, 23 years to be exact. 23 years of drug addiction. Striving to be seen, I guess.
Yeah.
Treatment, coming into Christ, Him coming into me, I've been able to work a lot of that off.
Somebody had to see you in that process.
Absolutely.
To see you as more
Absolutely.
than an addicted person.
Absolutely.
To see you as a person with an addiction, but you're not an addicted person.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
How did you all experience the very overzealousness of Jefferson? I noticed that whenever you all started a conversation, he was the first person to talk, right? How did that feel?
Well, I'll say I'm just a naturally quiet person, so I'll fall back. And, you kind of go, oh, there's one in every group. It's true. So you let people operate in their gifting and their talent. And so my talent is to be quiet and observe and chime in every now and then. And so that's my talent. It's my gifting. And but you go with or go with the flow, and just roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Similarly, I think there was a familiarity to that, and so it makes me wonder how many people have I just presumed were very or they think their voice needs to be heard over other people's, but what's the story behind them?
Yeah.
I have faced this so many times in groups, and I thought that this was another one trying to possess control and power, which is usually the case. And when you are in small groups, people just want to press and control, and I know you don't know anything.
So let's we can hear your comment, but as you all are thinking about these different characters, these are real people. But I want you to reflect, to imagine, to remember people in your lives in the past and in the present who are this way. Have you seen them? Have you had the courage, as Pastor has, inspirited us, to push beyond your fear, to see how you might stand alongside them? They're young people this way, it's a whole bunch of them. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Did you want to share something? Or are you good?
I was just listening to him and what he had to say. I felt like this was the atmosphere for that. So perhaps he had something on his chest that he needed to get off, and that we were here to receive it. And maybe help him through it as well, especially when he was talking about his journey and what trial or how he felt earlier. So I'm just taking it in and trying to process, all right, is there anything I should stay here? Is there not? And that's just it.
But one thing that we must continue to think about is people who show the face of power are really vulnerable, right? And a lot of it can be posturing, right? And I really noticed that when I was working with these young men, you know, because these big time, I mean, like, these are big time gangbangers. And I would use some choice words that I won't use on camera or in this space. But I'd be like, hey man, stop effing with me. You know, it's 200 other dudes out there that really would like to have this time to talk. Don't BS me. Let's talk. Or get you out. Right? And I'm like, where is this coming from, dude? You know, I grew up, but I ain't grew up like that, you know. But I met them on their level. And they say, people don't talk to me like that. But I could tell you really care for me. Well, let's put the mask down and let's talk. All right. Mario is here. Thank you, brother. All right. And then we're going to practice, and we can eat. Yes, Lord, we can eat.
Well, I'm Mario. I'm a 19-year-old kid. A lot of people around the community and the church I attend and stuff like that always categorize me as a problem child, as a thug, as a bad person, as you're never going to amount to anything. I've been trying to change my life and trying to change everything that I had done in my past and trying to make myself better. I'm actually trying to get into barber school to get my license, but really don't know how. And every time I go to talk to somebody and every time I go to locate an institution, they look at me because of the way I dress, the way that I talk, and they say, you don't want this. Sometimes I feel captivated, you know, in my own thoughts because of the simple fact that people see me as an image because of where I live and where I come from, instead of who I am, how I'm crying out for help. That's my story.
You know this guy too, don't you?
Yeah, it used to be me.
Used to be you.
It used to be me.
Somebody heard your story too.
Oh, yeah. He's standing right there, sitting right there.
How did it feel? I asked Jonathan to sit in the back corner of the room. The last time I did this experiment at Emory with some prospective students, and the gentleman turned his back to everybody and sat there for an hour and 20 minutes, and not a single person asked him, would you like to join the conversation? This is not an indictment about an institution. It's a human problem. One more comment, and then I would love to hear what you said. I also did this experiment. Y'all, I like doing this stuff. I did this experiment at a national convention. I won't say which denomination it was. It's a national convention. We on tape, so I ain't going to say that. It was a national convention. It was 3,000 pastors. 3,000 pastors in this room. Now, you know, come to the convention, you decked out. You got on your nice suit, your best clothes. You walk in there, right? I found one guy in there who had on jeans and a T-shirt, and asked him to sit in the back of the room as Mario. He's actually my friend. He was a pastor from another denomination who came to support me. Would you believe that he sat in the back of the room? Not a single one of those 3,000 pastors spoke to him. He came up to the microphone and told his story as Mario, how it felt to be in that room with 3,000 pastors. He's a pastor too, but he had on jeans that day. and nobody spoke to him. Guess what? He gave his testimony, and he walked right out of the convention after the program was over, and nobody still spoke to him. Oh, we got some work to do, y'all. Okay, Mario, let's go. How did it feel, John?
It kind of brought me back to when I was in high school and stuff. I was privileged enough to be skilled at athletics and stuff like that, but a lot of people didn't think I had a brain, because jocks are usually looked at as just somebody that likes to be in the light, somebody that likes to just perform, somebody that likes to just be fake. And I thought of myself as a smart kid and stuff like that, and I actually started believing what they said and ruined a lot of opportunities for myself. I actually stopped going to school as much as I should have and stopped studying. I went in my freshman and sophomore year, almost 4.0, and graduated, I think it was with a 2.1. I did something extremely low. And it was because I started believing in what people started telling me. You know, I can't count how many Division I offers, and they all said, you could play, but you're not very smart. And that kind of crushed me a little bit, and I kind of started rebelling, and I started to just ignore the people that actually kind of, you know, loved me and promoted me as a better person. And I actually almost lost a relationship with my best friend, which is sitting here, is my father, and stuff like that. And I actually started getting in a lot of trouble, and I forgot about school. I forgot that I could play sport. I forgot that I was actually intelligent, until one day my dad sat down and he said, you're getting out of here. So I got an opportunity to go to California and go to school, play basketball and baseball, do what people said that I couldn't do. And ironically, now I coach college basketball. I'm a women's coach in California, and I get to help see, like you said, all these kids. You know, I was a men's coach for the last 2 years, and I got to see a lot of inner city kids that nobody spoke to, nobody gave a chance to. And I mean, I got 15 guys that didn't have a GED before they got to me, and now at the 4-year level about to graduate next year. So it's, you know, I got, you know, I got the opportunity because of that man right there, and now I just give back only because I know what it felt to not have somebody there.
How did it feel? How did it feel? You said you know how it felt. How did it feel?
I felt like trash.
Okay. All right. We're back here. Thank you. We're going somewhere. How did you all feel?
Try to get him to laugh, try to make a connection. He won't with it, so I chilled on it. So I didn't want to feel like I was bothering him. I got him to smile though, so he smiled. So that was all right. So I didn't know I was getting him out of character, but I did get him to smile. So I was like, cool, he's straight over here. So I figured he was like me. I'm quiet too, so I figured I just stay in the back, be near him.
Yeah.
Try to do that presence thing. So.
Good. Thank you, Brother Jones.
I purposely sat in the back because I came in a little late, and I didn't want to start a conversation because people were already talking at the front. So I felt like he wants to be alone. I want to be alone. I'm going to respect his desire to be alone.
Did you feel the presence of the people around you?
I did, especially the guy back there. He actually went out of his way to actually invoke me, and I'm a pretty productive person, and I like to talk with new people and get to know them, hence my job. But he tried, and it was really hard not to invoke myself in a conversation because he seemed really interesting. And then when she started reading, she was reading the thing that you came back there and told her to start reading. It was tough not to engage with her because, the way she read it and the way it came out of her mouth was just like captivating. Like, it just brought me into a place and brought me into a full circle of my whole entire life until I am today, which was really impressive the way she did that as well. And then the other guy that read as well came back there, and kind of I felt like he he was really trying, but he kind of felt uncomfortable because it was so quiet, you know. But he went and still did it, which was very, very cool and stuff like that. And I mean, I was surrounded by great people, and I had to definitely try my hardest to stay in Mario's character.
Well, and at times it's really difficult to penetrate, right? I mean, let's be honest. A smile is actually a major accomplishment. Thank you, my brother. There is this mode of therapy called solution-focused brief therapy, right? And it really structures how I engage with people, not just in counseling environments, but in the world. Part of the role of the caregiver is to see that which other people overlook and to hear that which most people ignore. I think that's the primary role of the caregiver. And what I would challenge you all to think about is to celebrate small victories, right? And to build on small vestiges of hope. We always look for the big success story. But I would like to think that our job is to plant the seeds, right? There was this one dude that I was working with. He said, Mr. Greg, you know, I appreciate all this shit, you know what I'm saying? I done learned a lot. I got some more hustling in me. And I was like, thank you. It dawned on me, right, that as a teacher, as a pastor, as a counselor, as a mentor, as a friend, I have to have some pedagogical patience. And my role is solely to plant the seed. And this dude could be 50 years old and could say, man, talking to his grandkid, I remember I was in Newark, I was hustling, I met this one dude, he said, ... to me. It may take 50 years for the seed to grow. Sometimes redwoods take some time, right? God nurtures the seed, we just plant it. But we have to have the wherewithal, the insight, the vision to see that there's enough hope in that ground, even if it looks very rocky and dried up, to say, well, we can plant a seed there. All right, let's practice, right? Y'all, yes, ma'am.
We didn't have an opportunity to talk about it.
I'm so sorry.
No, but because I heard the young man over there give an indication of how he felt about the other role play that was just done, that we didn't get an opportunity to say, when you asked us to read the passage from Thurman, and I mean, it was really deeply into the passage. And so my feeling and sense was, let's start it, because there were only a few minutes for each of us to do these things, and okay, I'll get it started. But it wasn't the fact that I needed to be heard, it was just that it needed, let's get this done. So I volunteered, and we went around, and when it came to Steve, I think I did just to look at him. Why wouldn't he volunteer like the rest of us? But we didn't know that he was doing that. But let me tell you, so I guess I am also thinking about me and how I feel in situations when I ask you, when I look at you, and I think that you're going to participate. Then I want to say, did he do this because we are less than him? Does this privilege of being white make a difference? And since we aren't, I don't know. But let me stick with what Howard Thurman is telling us. I don't want to miss the point. Do you get what I'm saying? When he ignored the possibility of contributing or just speaking, knowing that we had had no other conversation,
And we never did have a conversation to say who we were. I'll give our names or anything. But there was joyful participation and sharing. And he didn't.
Well, and it troubles us a lot, right? But as Christians, do we create spaces of belonging? Or spaces of radical hospitality? We never know what people are struggling with. And it's easy to say, well, F him. I talk like that sometimes. I won't do that here. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, we have, I see what you're saying. It's time to go, y'all. Let's practice. Let's practice. I would invite you all to participate in this one exercise, and then we'll roll. It's called the long, loving look. Has anyone heard of it? The long, loving look. Oh, yeah. All right. So I'm going to ask that you would get in pairs of two, that you would sit at a comfortable distance, that you would sit at a comfortable distance from somebody that's near you. Now, you have to turn your chair so you can face them, just like I'm facing Pastor here. Okay? Now, this is a free world. If you don't want to participate, you still belong. I'll explain it. I will explain it. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you so much.
Look at something I want you to look at. Don't ain't no responses. You know what that means. Give you peace when you're there.
Thank you. Okay. He came through the surgery successfully. Yeah. You gotta go. Okay.
I love you. Thank you. Make an opportunity.
I would love that.
I work at
I would love to. My email address is on the back. Oh, great. Okay, we only need, it can only be a pair of two. Steve needs a partner up here, someone. She had to go to work. You didn't piss her off. Okay, all right, we'll be done in a couple minutes, everybody. All right. This is called the long, loving look. The long, loving look. It is a practice that was developed by a monk by the name of Bishop McNamara. And what we're going to do is take a long, loving look at the real and genuine gifted person before us. And when we say long, we're not going to think about long in terms of time. It's not going to be a long time, but what we're asking you to do is to have an unhurried tempo, that you're going to invest in this moment for this space of your life. When we're asking you to look lovingly, we're asking that you would see the gift that is made in the human, the gift that is made in the image of God before you. There is a old, sorry, this is my brother. Everybody, my dad pulled through the surgery. So they, this is a practice that is a look that you would see something divine, right? There is this old saying that if you look into the eyes of another, it becomes a gateway to God. It could be a mirror to yourself, okay? So this is how this works. For about 45 seconds, we'll do a minute, okay? For 1 minute, I'm going to ask you to look lovingly at the real person that is sitting before you. Now, we're going to do our introduction. As a matter of fact, let's do that now. If you could just shake your hand, tell the person before you, it's good to meet you. Okay. Now, it's really important that you face each other, okay? Now, everybody, our time is ticking, okay? Now, we want this to be a safe experience. So please look lovingly above the shoulders. Okay? Is that fair? Right. Secondly, when you look at the person before you, I'm going to ask that you not talk, but you remain silent. But it may evoke a smile or some laughter. And at times, this initial discomfort can be a gateway to deeper experiencing. It's a natural experience, right? Finally, right, you'll look for a minute, and then I'll give us a break, and then we'll switch. So now, could we determine who is person A and who is person B in your group? Okay? Now, person A, now you still can opt out of this, and it's okay. I would ask that you would try and invest as much as you can into this experience. This has been transformative for people. Person A, would you please ask person B, may I look lovingly at you for the next minute? Just ask them. Okay? All right. All right, so now that we've agreed, when I ask you to begin, we're going to go for 1 minute, okay? She's looking lovingly at that baby. He just wanted that bottle. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Let's begin. Okay, time. That was 1 minute. All right. Person A, would you please thank person B for allowing you to see the beauty of God's creation? Okay? Okay, all right. Okay, person B, would you please ask person A, may I have the distinguished honor of looking at you lovingly? Okay, all right, we have agreed. It sounds as if we have agreed. My friends online, I hope you could find somebody to do this with you. All right, on the count of 3, 2, 1. Let's begin. Okay, person B, please thank person A. Okay. For everybody, our time is almost up. Our time is almost up. Would you please share just one word? Let's sit with it for a minute before we talk. Let's let it bubble up. Share one word with the person before you of what you saw when you looked lovingly. Maybe 3 words. Let's keep it short, okay? Just let it bubble up. Okay, let's go. What did you see? Okay, everybody, let's call out some of those words. Okay. All right. Yes, Miss Shirley. Strength. Okay. Courage. Wisdom. Caring. Empowering. Peace. Serious. Shy. Intensity. Love of Christ. Okay, now, funny. Now let's I want to ask you all another question. What did it feel like? Uncomfortable? Awkward? Emotional? Intimate? Powerful? Soothing? Peace, powerful, acceptance, funny, acknowledged, rare, seen, rare, supported. 2 more. Longing. What was the last one? Pleasant. Okay. My brother, could you come up for 1 minute? Yeah, you. Yeah. We only looked at each other for a minute. Okay? Could you hold that one for me? We only looked at each other for a minute. And what we saw was strength. We saw courage. We saw wisdom. We saw caring. We saw a sense of empowerment and intensity. Right? We saw the love of Christ. It felt awkward a little, but it was also intimate. And we found peace and power and support and acknowledgement. This was in 1 minute. It was a rare opportunity. When you aren't seen, you feel rejected. You feel despair. You feel torture. You feel guilt. You feel profiled and lonely and blinded and forgotten and rejected and outcasted. Right? 1 minute. That's all it takes. Last night was 3 feet. Today is 1 minute. Small changes create lasting memories. May God be with you as you build the kingdom of God on heaven and on earth as it is in heaven. Peace to you on the journey. Let's see and let's hear.